every team can still avoid relegation and even make playoffs.
Where did Giants Gaming go?
Nuestro objetivo ahora mismo es no quedar últimos.
I think everything is possible right now. We just have to win more games.
Rocket, we felt could be a top 4 contender, is just not finding the magical ingredient. Meet your makers need to be very, very careful.
The whole team has a new motivation right now. I think I can save the MYM season.
The team that at week 1 were expected to be top 2, top 3.
It's only gonna work if you actually improve the issues we have.
5 wins, 9 losses, out of playoff positions.
But with just 4 games left to play, every win counts. Welcome to the European League of Legends Championship Series Spring Split. We're coming to you live from Berlin, Germany, where just moments ago, everything started to get underway here as the fans were lining up to take their seats and enjoy all the action we've got lined up for you today. There's a Fisho giving a tour to some Danish fans, but a lovely group of guys looking in here in the crowd as well, checking out the analyst desk and everything. Gambit, their Diamond, well, these guys have a lot to think about after IEM. Pinoy is always happy, but they'll have to prove themselves on the Rift after that tournament. And here, of course, MYM, they cannot lose their first game versus Gambit coming up here. I'm Evie Supporter here with Trevor Quickshot Henry and our guest analyst for the week, OG World Champion Lauri Cyanide Happonen, as we get into the first of the final 2 weeks before the spring playoffs. Welcome, gentlemen.
Greetings.
Good to see you again, Cyanide, as always. And before we get to today's games, let's recap last weekend's action at the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship in Katowice, Poland. It wasn't the best tournament for EU. I mean, we got to come straight out and say that. First up, SK Gaming, who won versus the Yowie Flash Wolves initially, but then dropped the games to both GE Tigers and the Yowie Flash Wolves, and their weaknesses were exposed.
Yeah, that's the main thing about SK, is they've had these glaring weaknesses that we've actually highlighted multiple times throughout the course of the split, but the teams at IEM just exploited them to near perfection. The vision, the lack of winning laning phase, and I also think Enrated had a particularly poor tournament. That Lulu was banned out. He didn't show up on Annie. So we need to see if SK can work around their weaknesses and improve before we get to playoffs.
Yeah, and our other European representative at IEM, Gambit, they were 0-2. They lost to CJ Entis and Team WE, and it wasn't as much the other teams exploiting their weaknesses as them, to me, showing really a solo queue attitude in the game.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Gambit just didn't show up. I actually really like what they tried to do against CJ Entis. They had this heavy engaged composition, Lee Sin, Twisted Fate, and even a Jarvan in the top lane. But the problem is they didn't play around the comp. I felt that Eddie in particular, he had these early mobility distortion boots and he just didn't roam enough. Gambit didn't find ways to make the team comp work, and they ended up going 0-2, getting knocked out early.
Yeah, definitely fell apart there. But in the end, the North American team solo mid reigned supreme, taking home the #1 prize at the end of the tourney after a dominant 3-0 sweep of Team WE in the finals. Fantastic performance there from them. And even here in Europe, we chant for TSM. Now let's bring it back to the LCS with a look at the standings. At the top of the table, we have Fnatic, H2K, and SK Gaming. Fnatic and H2K, they are tied for the 2nd place playoff bye to the semifinals. And then right under that, we have the Copenhagen Wolves versus the Unicorns of Love, the matchup that's coming here later today that will be so important in that playoff battle.
It really will be. But for me, my eyes is in the bottom half of the table with Elements, Rocket, Giants, and MYM. Interestingly, because of how difficult it's going to be for Elements and Rocket to make those playoff positions, and who's also going to take that 9th and 10th position between Giants and MYM. 10th, auto-relegation down to Challenger Series.
Yeah, every game counts. And finally, this week's games will be played on patch 5.5, where the big changes, of course, are new Cinderhulk jungle enchantment. And while Kassadin will be enabled, Bard will not. And we have a fantastic jungler here with us to talk us through the changes. What have been your impression of the changes? What do you think they will do in LCS?
So I hope the Cinderhulk will bring some variety to the jungle that we have been looking for a long time now. It's been the Jarvan, Lee Sin, Rek'Sai for such a long time right now, and I'm getting bored of playing those champions. So I hope the competitive teams, they will bring some new junglers out, and I think Rek'Sai and Nidalee will still be tier 1, but we might see some tanky junglers as the tier 2 picks, especially since teams are attracting a lot of jungle bans right now, but it might take them some weeks to get used to the new meta and seeing what's good first, and then before they have the guts to pull out the new picks.
Yeah, we'll see who has the guts to pull it out here. Well, with so much potential for a shift in the meta, we want to hear what you guys think. Tweet at LL Esports with the hashtag LCS and let us know which champion do you want to see played by a pro on patch 5.5 and why. Lodi.
For me, it would be Volibear because I'm a huge fan of him, but I don't think he will be picked because literally every tier 1 support counters him like Morgana. You get binded, Thresh, you just get boxed and you can't do anything. But I think one champion we might see is Zac. He got a bit buffed, and I think the new jungle item suits him even better. Like late game, you're just an unkillable monster, so that's something I hope to see.
Yeah, me as well. Well, we'll probably see those jungle changes right away as we start the day with Gambit and Meet Your Makers, who have no choice but to win if they want to stay in the LCS. And then the Copenhagen Wolves and the Unicorns of Love will go head-to-head to break the tie in the middle of the table. Finally, Elements will face H2K later today as Odoamne and the rest of the team look to tie Fnatic's win streak record with their 9th straight win. Now, if you want to look ahead at the last matchup of the Spring Split, head over to lolesports.com, and there you'll find schedule, standings, and the latest worldwide power rankings to see how the teams stack up on a global scale. And we got a little look into that at IEM. It wasn't that good for Europe, sadly. It's time for us to take a look at our first matchup of the day, though, as Meet Your Makers goes up against Gambit. Let's start by taking a look at the lineup for Gambit Gaming as we know it. Of course, Cabochard, Diamond, Betsy, Pinoy, Edward, and Leviathan. Before they went to IEM, they went 1-1 the week before, and they lost to H2K, which is a very good team, of course. But to me, I'm quite worried about them because they looked disjointed at IEM, and I don't know how much of that they will bring into this playoff race.
Yeah, like at the start of the split, we saw Gambit was just struggling to get any wins, and they were like on this full tilt streak. And then after that, they went on a good spree, and now they again got crushed at IEM. So I hope it doesn't completely break their morale.
Yeah, Diamonds was particularly disillusioned after his performance, and he said in an interview, I think European junglers are the best, maybe after Koreans. He did get beat out by Ambition and Spirit, and for him personally, it was not a good experience.
It really wasn't. Part of the reason that Gambit had such a good sort of week 3 to week 7 performances and they strung together all of those wins was because of how well Diamond was playing. There was some jungle changes that come in. Diamond had some good impact on lanes, but at IEM, he may as well have not been on the field. His Nidalee in game 2 of the tournament, he picked up a skirmisher. Saber Crumbs in particular was super disappointed with the itemization. And I think for Diamond, in the interview, he did say he played terribly, he played poorly. We'll see if he can pick it up. There's only 2 weeks left before playoffs, and Gambit needs every win they can to make it in.
And in theory, a new patch with Diamond, he should be able to look at that. But of course, they had a little less practice because they went to IEM. Talking about team morale, though, also Edward, he tweeted after the loss at IEM, I'm really bad at this game. I need to step up or GTFO from League. Very harsh words, Signet. What does that tell you about a player that's been around for so long and can't seem to find his groove?
Yeah, I just feel like he was really emotional after the loss and was just venting through Twitter.
Yeah, one thing I want to highlight about that, yes, you know, Eddie was venting and he has been a fairly vocal player, but Eddie's not been as dominant as he once was. The Thresh Prince, that title is, I think, long gone. At the tournament, even the god of Mad Life wasn't living up to historical performance. So for Edward, I think it is a very fair statement. He needs to find a way to get that impact back that he once had. Even just earlier in this split.
Yeah, and whatever it means, the team just has to come together right now. They play Elements after this, the Unicorns of Love, SK to end the split, so they have a super, super heavy schedule. And now they're up against MYM. They did beat them in week 5, but I feel like MYM could really have an in here. But let's first take a look at the lineup for MYM. Of course, in the top lane, JWoww, then Horo, Corey, Mr. Ralls, Noxiac, and Yamato Cannon. They absolutely need to win. If they lose this, they are out of the race entirely. And we did see Noxiac in the preview right now, and he had some really strong words.
I absolutely love that. Noxiac saying, I believe I can help fix MYM's auto-relegation. I think it's a fair statement. Since Noxiac's come in, MYM seems to have some more cohesion. His aggressive support plays, Leon in particular, stands out. And if the team can get behind both him as well as Corey in that mid lane, maybe they can pull off some surprise wins, push Giants down to number 10 and get themselves into the promotion tournament.
Yeah, because they did win versus Giants last week, and although that might not seem that much, those are the games you absolutely have to win to stay in the race. Talking about things that have been good for this team in all the bad stuff, actually, this season, Horo continues to impress. He also had a great week again. What do you think he can do more for the team in these final crucial weeks?
Yeah, I think Horo is a really good jungler, and it's saying a lot because when your team doesn't perform, it's really hard to shine out as a jungler, but he's done a really good job and is for sure one of the better junglers in Europe.
Yeah, so, well, positive points for MYM there all around. Do you think they have what it takes to beat Gambit, even with, well, maybe with Gambit now being a little bit under the weather?
I still think Gambit is the better team, and I think they will win, but you never know how much improvement MYM has had during these weeks they had to practice.
Yeah, and the one thing it also plays into MYM's favor, the fact that they've had a couple extra days on 5.5. So we'll see whether or not they can find something to settle in to unsettle Gambit.
Yep. Well, without further ado, it's time to hand it off to our dashing duo at the caster desk to get into picks and bans.
Thank you very much, Shocks. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Devin Pyrotechnics Young, and I've been here keeping the desk warm with my co-caster now, Martin Deficio Linga, coming back from his week in Poland. It has been a little lonely here in Berlin without you, man.
Did you survive, or did you really miss me that much?
I did a lot.
Wow.
But yeah, you know what? It was nice to see you step back off the plane, so glad to have you back.
I didn't see you in the airport, but kind of scary if you were there looking for me.
It was a pair of binoculars. Oh. I was waiting, counting down the time. Anyways,
Beautiful.
We're getting ready. I've also been counting down the time for this game, man. We're back into week 8 now. Every game counts, as we heard Shock say in the opening of that one. And I'm really excited to see what happens here, because Meet Your Makers, again, it's must win. They still technically can make playoffs. Gambit Gaming, they may be a little off tilt after IM, but, you know, they had a really strong run prior to that, even last week when there was some less conventional picks. I'm really excited to see what happens here in the 5-5 patch.
I think this is a pretty good setup for Gambit to really get the confidence back facing Meet Your Makers, who is still considered the weakest team here in Europe. So yeah, despite them having a poor IM performance, you come back here. If you win against MYM, then tomorrow you play Elements, another team who struggles. Pick up a 2-0, you're guaranteed then to be in the playoffs, and instead you're fighting towards the top 2 spots for Gambit here. So I think they're going to be okay. But yes, this is a massive patch here, and really the big story coming into these games is which team can adapt to all these changes here, and who's going to try out a lot of new things. Is it going to work for them, or are they going to suddenly be surprised about a certain pick? I mean, there's so many new viable junglers at the moment. And also just top laners. There's big tanky top laners. We got still the carries. We have the early game focus. We got the late game. I mean, it's very, very tough to see or to say exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, and it really is not just hard to say with new patches in general, but with the week off too, we've had the teams have had a little bit more time to like kind of read up and prepare. These pick bans are going really fast, though. You can see there's a Sejuani taken away. A lot of speculation that not only is it already a strong pick prior to this patch, now it's especially strong, especially with Diamond.
Yeah, I think Sejuani is going to be the best tank jungler and really one of the strongest jungle picks in the current meta. Rek'Sai Nidalee is of course still up there, that's why Nidalee is banned, and Gambit is setting up for a first pick Rek'Sai here if they still want it for Diamond. But Sejuani is going to be banned a lot, especially against Gambit, because they've already played it beforehand.
Oh, yeah.
The rest, I mean, a lot of target bans here from Gambit. Leona, we saw Noxiac played so well last week, or well in week 7, when MYM managed to pick up a win against Giants. And then obviously Graves against Rallis, not one of his standard ADCs here. Rek'Sai banned instantly. He's one of their newer picks in Europe. Hecarim been locked in.
Yeah, that one is locked in for now. Meet Your Makers have a little bit of time to see what they want to do, but it really does seem like Gambit is taking this pick ban phase lightning fast. There's that hover for the victor. Corey did have a game on it, wasn't incredibly impressive.
True. Well, against Fnatic, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It was against a very tough team, admittedly.
The entire team kind of fell apart, but Victor is a very tough champion to play if there's so much focus on you as the mid laner, because he's so immobile in that lane. He's very easy to gank, and that's exactly what Fnatic did against Meet Your Makers. So I'm not sure they have to first pick it here. He's not a champion we've seen Betsy play. Either he's more the assassin style than Victor straight up. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him change it and save that Victor for later.
Yeah, I think I agree there. Meet Your Makers definitely taking their time, but you can see, unless they change it up last minute, they're really thinking about this Victor, and then of course what Horo's going to take. They do finally lock not only that, but the Olaf in for Horo. So we did speculate a lot about jungle picks, but this was one I don't think we really expected to see a ton more of.
Just look at the pick and ban phase here. For Europe, this is very different. This is of course some of the top picks we've seen from other regions, like Victor has been played a lot. It was IM, we've seen Korea obviously use it a lot as well. So it is a fantastic pick. But Hecarim as well is not a champion we've seen too often here in Europe. I still think it's a bit of a flex pick. Gambit could put in the jungle as well for Diamond if they want a different top laner for Kabushop, but we can talk more about that later once we see the pick coming in from Diamond.
So Gambit goes ahead, they take the Lulu and the Sivir. That's a little bit more normalcy for us, but the Lulu also a flex pick too. As you mentioned, Betsy's is still a little bit more of the assassin-focused player, but we have seen a number of mid-Lulus so far this season.
Yeah, and I feel like these two picks are more takeaway from MYM. You're looking at the lineup and say, well, they have an Olaf. We don't want to give them Sivir with the ulti. We don't want to give them the likes of a Lulu for speed up Olaf so he can just go crazy on our backline here. So by taking all this mobility away, you more set up for you. We'll see Pinoy here. He's always in a good
feeling
mood,
confident.
Always. But we see Gambit here on their setup here, on their lineup. They have the ability to kite from the Olaf with the extra mobility or the movement speed, Or what they can do as well is they can turn around and say, we're going to ignore you and we're going to dive your backline instead. We got the FLICKR, we got the Sivir with her ulti, and we can get very, very fast towards Mr. Rallis, who's just picked a very immobile AD carry. He's going to be the target for Gambit with these first few picks.
Yeah, the Kog'Maw, it's a little bit risky here, and you see there's so much mobility and chase already on the side of Gambit. A lot of speed-ups, self-speed-ups, and team speed-ups. If they don't properly frontline, and they don't really have a full tank right now on Meet Your Makers, Rallis is going to have a really tough game.
I mean, they do have Olaf as a big tank, yeah, but Olaf doesn't really fit in too well if you want to protect your AD carry. Because he doesn't really offer any protection himself. He doesn't... All he does is dive the enemy backline. Like, that's what he does. So he's going to look at like the AD carry and say, okay, let's one-on-one. Here we go.
But it's a Sivir too. I mean,
exactly. That's the point.
That should be able to get away from him.
Well, even as a champion, just by popping her ulti, she's done enough almost for her team to at least get to the backline of Meet Your Makers. So I don't really understand Olaf together with a hyper carry and a Victor. In this sense, I would have preferred a jungler who adds a lot more CC to the table to really just peel backwards. Gonna be the jungle Hecarim.
Full assassination. Yeah, jungle Hecarim. We've got the top cannon, and we've got the Diana. We're starting to see a little bit more of those.
Really like it.
This
Diana,
is a very aggressive composition.
Diana is a very, very good pick. Came a little bit tricky against Victor early on in the laning phase, but you start flasking 3 potions, so you should be able to sustain through it. Get you a level 6 point, and then you just dive Victor. You knock him back, and the Hecarim comes in, and that's a dead Victor nearly every time. Gambit, very standard for them. Fantastic team fight. A lot of AoE wombo as well. Hecarim cannon coming in. Mr. Rallis, if he does not position himself perfectly, and he does not have the help of Noxiag in these fights, he's gonna die very, very easily. And again, that's where this Olaf is not really gonna offer anything. You could have talked about a Zac, a Nautilus or whatever, if you wanted more CC to peel for your hyper carry and for your Victor, because MYM have very mobile carries, which is gonna be the targets against double tank. So it's gonna be some tricky fights for them. Gambit has so many options of getting to the backline to Rallis and Corey, and not a whole lot to protect him from MYM's side with this Olaf pickup.
Yeah, I agree. It's a little bit strange, a little haphazard, I feel. I'm curious to see what they do in lane with the Nami, especially, because there's going to be a decent amount of poke, but I mean,
yeah,
Gambit, they can be very aggressive. They can end the lane phase early if they want to. I mean, how confident can you be as Noxiag? He said in the beginning, yeah, I think I can bring this team back, but it has to start now. There's no chance of playoffs if they lose this one.
And when we have seen him perform, it's been on champions where he could roam around. You don't roam on Nami. She's way too squishy to
especially
really
not
roam
with Kog'Maw AD carry.
No, definitely not. So the 2-2 lane is fine for MYM, especially once you hit like level 5, you get 3 ranks in W. For Mr. Rallis, that's fine. The lane is not bad at all for them. Problem is, you can't really roam. You need to sit there, as we just said, with your AD carry. You need him to be fed, and then you need to find a way of protecting him against a Sivir ulti and so much AoE and dive and like everything. I want to see how MYM plays it. I'm not sold from the pick and ban phase.
Yeah, well, Yamato Cannon didn't seem to have too many troubles. Smile on his face there as he shook hands with Leviathan. It's definitely going to be a tough game. Gambit, you can never really predict exactly what they're going to do, whether it's a good day or a bad day. But why don't you guys let us know your predictions? Let us know if you think Meet Your Makers can pull off the perfect run through the end of the split and keep their playoff hopes alive by tweeting us at LOL Esports with the hashtag GMB win or MYM win. We'll check on those results. But for now, the crowd is pumped up. It is the start of Week 8 of the European LCS, and we're onto the Rift.
We already see again, Olaf was played before here in Europe, but obviously now with the Cinder Hulk, it's gonna be a fairly strong, you know, champion in itself. Question is just how much can Horo add to his team here?
That is the question indeed. We'll see how this one starts off. So far, looks like we could be in for some standard lanes. Edward going a little high up as they fan out in the formation. But as this one gets underway, we did take a little bit of time beforehand to catch up with Betsy regarding his recent performance in the LCS.
In the beginning it was really good, because I went like 10-0 or something on Ahri, and I got so much messages after that. But now I feel like I'm not playing that well compared to before, so I need to step up.
A few doubts there. I'll see if he can pick this one back up. I mean, he's in a little bit of a tricky matchup in this time around.
He is, but he should be fine. He's not starting Flask though on Diana, which again, against the Victor, you're going to take a lot of poke damage in this lane. So let's see how he plays it. A lot more aggressive from Betsy, but his IM performance, he played Twisted Fate in both the games, and honestly, it didn't work out too well for him. But it's also Gambit as a team who struggled a lot. Now Eddie and Pinoy invading in, getting a deep ward to spot if anyone is starting here on the Wolf camp, and yeah, they see the that JWoww and Maokai was trying to set up for an early level 2, and they managed to stop it just by placing this ward, so they prevent a good start from JWoww.
A lot of trinket wards pop to begin this one.
So JWoww can still do the small raptors over here, or give them over to Corey in the mid lane, just by throwing down one sapling, and then potentially like an E from Corey. That should be enough for him to clear out the camp. Oh, the small ones, you always leave the big one, so he gives them, there we go. Just as you can see, about 40% XP towards level 2, and he can still return to lane before any minions dies. Any of the minion dies. Here, one of the strong things about Maokai. And also, even better in this patch, honestly, with Righteous Glory being buffed, now gives 150 more HP, so 650 in total. So that's great for Maokai players. Yeah. And also, it is a good pick into Cannon, because you got your ulti to counter his ulti, and at the same time, if you can engage on the Cannon, he will never get to your back line, and you can simply lock him down with the Maokai. So I like that pickup at least by MYM.
Yeah, we'll see how that matchup does go on. For the time being, though, we're going to take a look at the middle and the bottom. Betsy taking a little bit of abuse from Corey to start this one off. He is returning it back with a couple of those Crescent Strikes, but still, could be some trouble for him going on forward.
Yeah, we see he plays the lane early on here. He really want to push it into the tower. Again, he's not running Flask and Potions like we normally see in Diana in the mid lane. Instead, the Doran's Ring. So it really tells me he's going to play so aggressive, and that means Diamond has to be nearby to protect him. Olaf is...
To be fair, Diamond can be nearby all the time.
Yeah, that's true. He's on Hecarim, so he has a lot of ability here. He can really move around fast, but we can see Betsy just keep pushing the lane. Olaf prefer normally to sit and farm to level 6 to get your Cinderhulk and you become a bit tanky. But you can go in and punish her down as she's immobile, land one axe, she's slowed down, and then Corey can deal a lot of damage. Yeah. See Betsy again, he's pushing into lane.
He's trading okay right now. And meanwhile, on the bottom, it was for a while they were pushing in pretty hard too. Pinoy and Edward were making it a little bit rough for Rallis, but he has caught up on some farm. Horo down in the bottom, going to be taking his own blue buff a little bit slower to clear these things out. We'll see where he does decide to make a move if he does focus on the mid lane, help out Corey. Rallis back in the bottom, still taking some pressure between Edward and Pinoy.
Yeah, the first few levels are going to be in favor of Gambit. Lulu is always one of those supports who deals a lot of damage through the first few levels. But then the damage really starts falling off for her, and it's going to be more about her utility she brings towards the late game itself. So you need a few levels here for MYM before you can really start trading effectively. I think Horo got it.
He did. Barely though.
Eddie tried to steal it.
Quick roam there. Corey's the one who's being a little bit pushed back in this lane, but again, he's not really suffering for any farm. Gambit aren't really denying anything here, although Rallis taking a lot of damage now, forced to pop the heal as Eddie chased him pretty far in. Pinoy got himself fairly low in that engagement as well.
JWoww did have a good start to the lane, but now Capucha with the freeze and Gambit winning the fan vote. No real surprise, I guess.
Yeah, they're definitely the favorites in this situation, despite the IEM results, of course. Getting back into the LCS, they are facing off against the current last place team. And we'll see if that does prove true.
It is funny with MYM because the few changes they have made to the lineup, or the recent changes I think we can say, honestly it's been pretty effective for them. JWoww has been a good top laner, and we have seen Noxic at least in the week 7, had some good games. So I feel like it's been some okay changes. Question is, was it too late? Did they do anything? Because they are still sitting at number 10. They need to win one more game to tie with Giants and Rocket. And that's what they're going for. Noxic though, he's flashing in.
They were the ones making the aggressive play right there. Pinoy and Edward move back, and actually Horo was a little late to the party. Still, they've got the lane to themselves for the time being, or at least it is a number advantage as Pinoy is going to take the back to base.
And we saw a good back timing here in the mid lane. I think we're going to look more and more for, especially for Corey. He had over 1,000 gold, so he got to upgrade his Hex Core. And at the same time, he managed to get a ward and a few more potions. So pretty good timing for him. Obviously, the Death Ray has been upgraded. And in this case, because there's so much dive in from Gambit, I wouldn't be surprised to see him fairly early try and upgrade his Hex Core again and get his Q for some more movement speed, because he's really going to be one of the targets. Diamond is going to aim for him every single time. You know Betsy's going to follow. And you got that Sivir ulti to really push in the rest of the team. Question is just if MYM can manage to get the lane control or the map control, then suddenly the Olaf and the Maokai can be the ones to start the fights, and that's a good way of shutting down the likes of a Diana, because if you engage onto her and you make sure she never gets in range to land her Q on your backline, she won't get the reset on her ulti, and then it's fairly easy, honestly, to kite her around. So Meteor Makers does have some options, but it will require them to do well here in the early game, otherwise Gambit will take over the map and look for these fights. Wow, Pinoy also flashing forward.
Oh, Noxiac. He was a couple slices away from being turned into sushi there. Some bullying pressure from Pinoy. Gonna force the back. Gonna be able to push the wave too. That's one thing Sivir really does well in lane, is push this in, but unfortunately for Gambit, they've timed this, just to the point where Rallis is just about to come back, so he'll be able to freely gobble up all those minions. And again, he hasn't really been pushed back too far, and a champion like Kog'Maw, if he doesn't have too rough of a laning phase, that's usually a good sign for your team.
It's a good start for Rallis on this bottom lane in terms of his farm going towards the Trinity Force phase first. Betsy not been punished in this mid lane. He's been pushing it over and over. No ganks coming in, but Diamond hasn't really shown himself either. That's why Meteomagus has had to play fairly careful, because you don't want to risk like diving in with an Olaf and then suddenly Hecarim shows up and turns the fight around. So because Diamond had just been power farming, and Horo's been trying to do the same, we haven't really seen anything go on around the mid lane. Looks like Diamond here for himself, going towards the Cinderhulk on Hecarim, just going for the tanky route, not a warrior enchant.
Well, the Chilling Smite though, same can be said of Horo. I've seen a number of different jungle items being picked up. Diamond, of course, at IEM kind of favored the skirmishers, didn't really work out well for him. Is also kind of curious on the champions he picked too.
Yeah, it's been basically his own style, I think it is, with the skirmishers. And the current meta here, you can do a lot of things that nobody else really does and it can still work, because there's so many viable options. I do like the Chilling Smite on Hecarim because you steal the movement speed, which obviously fits well with your own passive. And again, for him, it's also going to be diving Rallis and Corey in these fights. Eddie here, been poking a bit in the bush. Diamond is down here. He's only on 50% HP, so he needs to be fairly careful if he goes for any ganks. Very easy turnaround. I think he was spotted. MYM can see him now at least. They're pinging him on the minimap, so it's going to be an easy blue buff for them. Pushing that one in, getting over to Corey, denying that from Betsy.
Yeah, there has been a good amount of jungle espionage this game, just moving sneakily in and taking away buffs, taking away camps, or at least attempting to, and grabbing the vision as well. So Corey, blue buff in tow, heads back to lane, defends the tower now, as Betsy has gone away. Uses the Death Ray, and he is pushing up very far forward with these minions without the wave at his back, but he knows that Betsy's back, so he's not really in danger of being 2v1.
No, that's fairly easy pushing for him. Let's see how much gold. He's sitting on 1200, so he can go back to base as well. Betsy is going for Morel Nomicon on a Diana. That's a new one. And I don't agree on it. I really would prefer if Betsy right here would just go for Abyssal Scepter into an Hourglass. Because there's a fair chunk of magic damage on the side of Meteomagus, so Abyssal Scepter is going to do him a lot of good stuff. And then the Hourglass simply for more diving potential. I think that's a lot better than going Morel Nomicon. You don't even need that much cooldown reduction on Diana because you already reset your ulti. And your Q drops down to like 6 seconds or 5 seconds, I believe it is, at rank 5 anyway. So I don't really agree with Betsy's build here, but I guess he just wanted maybe their healing reduction against the likes of an Olaf, against the Maokai in this situation. But for now, Gambit setting up for a dive on JWoww, poor guy.
Yep, see if he can make like a tree and leave. I don't think it's gonna happen because in comes Diamond, Cabochard, Betsy around the side. He's gonna force the flash out. He's surely gonna go down, but will it be Betsy going with them? That's first blood, a lot of tower shots tanked, but Gambit get that one and they get out.
MYM will respond with a dragon. Nice little dive here from Gambit.
Eddie though, he's down. Noxiac is the one that takes the credit. It's the start of the dragon too. MYM, they could get more out of this.
And they push the mid tower here. The best you can do, if someone roams away from your lane, just hard push in that lane here. You will get so much damage on the tower. And meanwhile, we talk about how MYM's bottom lane here. Once they got a few levels, it becomes a very, very strong lane. And they suddenly pick up a kill. Dragon as well, as you mentioned here. Mid tower down to 50%. A lot of things happening suddenly.
Yeah, MYM definitely came out ahead on that one. When you're going to invest so many resources to dive the top lane, Maokai, your jungler gets the kill too, not Cabochard. Arguably, it's okay to turn it over to either one of those, but I feel like if you're going to have Kennen be a little bit more of the initiator damage dealers, you kind of want that kill. At this point, MYM are looking pretty good.
Yeah, also just the setup for Gambit took quite a while to set up, or to start, I think we can say, how they were moving from the mid lane, moved around the enemy red buff, through the golems as well. So it was like the long route that to take all the way up to JWoww. That bought a lot of time for MYM to say, okay, what's going on here? Can we push the lanes? Yes, we can. Can we start a dragon? Can we fight in the bottom lane? Because we know the jungle is nearby. Yes, we can. And they just gave them so many options, and they took full advantage of it. And honestly, came out ahead from it just because of the kill they got on Eddie in the bottom lane. Looks like Diamond Wanted that Phage instead with his Ruby Crystal. Again, also the standard we have seen on Hecarim. Not on jungle Hecarim though. Trinity Force is a very expensive item for a jungler.
Takes a while to ramp up if you want to go that route.
But just getting the Phage itself is smart. Because again, it gives you the extra movement speed, which does so well with your passive. So I wonder if he's just going to sit on that for a while and now build tank from here, like we have seen some of the top lane Hecarim players do. Still the first or second jungle Hecarim we see here. I believe Airwax played it a few weeks ago, and it crashed and burned.
Well, Diamond is hoping that that doesn't happen for him as well. In the meanwhile, half this tower and a little bit more has been taken down as Horo and Corey are showing their muscles. Betsy, here we go. Diamond is going to charge in, but he's actually just more interested in the minions clearing that away. Tower has taken quite a lot of damage 12 minutes into this game. There has not been one fallen yet, but we have had some action.
And Horo has been allowed basically to just sit in his jungle and farm. Didn't gank a single lane. He's completed the Cinder Hulk now. Obviously our new jungle item here on 5.5 or jungle enchant. So you will get that 25% bonus HP, which is so great on an Olaf because you tend to stack HP anyway. And then it makes you extremely strong going towards the late game. Question is just, can the rest of your team follow you? Because you don't really offer a whole lot of protection for them. You are the one diving, the enemy AD carry.
Well, certainly, Rawlers probably won't be the one following. But, yeah, the real question is how well is this going to stack up in the team fight? So far, it's just kind of been miniature skirmishes, lane battles.
Yeah.
And, you know, they've gone a little bit back and forth, of course. You know, only a couple of kills. And still, good presence of mind. There's a lot of wards down on that bottom side, but that first dragon belonging to Meet Your Makers is going to give them a little bit of an edge and some confidence in this one. Betsy now pushing forward in the jungle. Horo's going to sight him out, though, and throws an axe his way. That'll chase him out.
So we have to remember Betsy on this Morel Nomicon. Fairly squishy compared to what you normally see on a Diana. You need some tanky stats. Because the way for you obviously to deal damage, especially in the late game, where so much comes from your passive, where you gotta get these auto attacks down, you're gonna have to sit in the fight. You cannot just jump in and out. Once you're in there, you need to get the 3 hits, proc that passive, you get insane amount of burst damage from that. And if you're building a fairly squishy build, it makes it tough for you to really get in there. For sure, because MYM has some okay disengage on their side. Even Olaf, I guess, can add some kiting, which is not really ideal for him, seeing as the axe, he won't be able to pick it up if he's kiting and running backwards. And consistently slowing targets. And we see how, as we mentioned earlier here with Corey, how you can get your second upgrade on your Hex core fairly early if you need to peel for yourself, which he will be doing in this situation. So he already upgraded the second one and obviously gone for Q. So gets that extra movement speed now for Corey in the mid lane. Very early. Double upgrades.
Yeah, and of course, you know, kind of a no-brainer to go for the Abyssal. He's got the magic resist starting already. The Negatron Cloak. Pick that one up just to be able to trade a little bit more effectively with the Diana. So far hasn't had too much trouble.
Oh, look at Diamond here again. He's really going fully towards that Trinity Force. Some makings of a Sheen, unless he wants to go Frozen Heart as his second item. A lot of things going on, but he's not been upgrading to any enchant, not Warrior, not Cinder Hulk. That means he's not getting. No, he's not really using how gold efficient that item is, depending on which one he wanted. So instead, he's just sitting on the Stalker's Blade. Still getting that 30 gold per large minion.
It is a little bit curious. Let's see if he's able to make something happen here. No, Corey is going to be able to get away as a teleport actually gets cancelled by JWoww. But Betsy and Diamond have already been chased off. Yeah, I feel like it's really hard to tell exactly what, especially in the build order, what Diamond is going for. Just because he does so many strange things that somehow work out in a lot of ways. But, you know, then occasionally they're going to fall flat. And you got to wonder, we haven't seen too many jungle Hecarims, and we've certainly not seen this build path for it. You got to wonder what he's going for.
Yeah, I just don't think he needs a Trinity Force. You have already 3 carries basically on your team. You have plenty of damage. I would much rather see him go like tank from now and be like the big front line for Gambit, because you got plenty of damage, you got plenty of tools as well of really putting your carries in a good position to kill someone. But if he gets to just sit and power farm, because he is ahead in farm compared to Horo, and nothing really happens for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, he might be able to get that Trinity Force completed in a decent time. But Betsy now is being chased off. Cabochard is hiding in the bushes. No wards from MYM in the river here, so they don't see him, but they do of course know he's not been showing himself in the top lane.
They also have a lot of those wards placed in the bottom side, so they're going to be able to spot when Gambit's moving through the jungle, and here they go. That one's going to get cleared out by MYM. Dragon's 10 seconds away, and this might be when we start to see the action happening. Teleport is available for Cabochard, but of course JWoww, he spent his to just try to scare off Betsy and Diamond earlier, so there will be that advantage. She better start running if they want to make this a 5v4. Betsy, though, is going to be the one charging in. Horo doesn't take any damage, and the Crab is taken down in favor of Meet Your Makers. Looking good for this Dragon.
Got some good deep wards, as you mentioned earlier. Mid tower. This is basically because Betsy had that roam to the top lane where Corey pushed it in, took 60% of the HP on the tower. So it means for Meet Your Makers, even if there is a dragon fight happening, or maybe if Gambit is baiting the dragon, Meet Your Makers should be able to very quickly go mid lane, take down that tower here, and at least trade that one. But in terms of the team fights, again, we're going to have Gambit with the dive in, we're going to have Meet Your Makers trying to really kite back at first, and then send in Horo kind of on his own, or maybe joined by JWoww to keep the likes of Capo Shot or Betsy busy. But it's going to be tough, because they will obviously try and ignore these tanks here. And Betsy is still trying to trade. Remember, he's fairly squishy.
He went in really early. That forced the wild growth. And he's going back in again, but this time the wave's going to be on him. Gravity field coming down. It's Betsy, who's taken down by Corey and Diamond. All alone by himself, tries to get back to the team. But the Death Ray will take him out. It's a 2-for-1 trade, as they lost Noxiac in that.
Yeah, fairly easy for Meet Your Makers here to kill Diamond and Betsy. Remember, they're building these fairly squishy builds for themselves. So when they dive in, if MYM just has proper focus, they're gonna kill them, like we just saw here. Took them a few seconds to take down Betsy, then Diamond followed. Dragon now for Meet Your Makers.
That's number 2. I mean,
it is number 2. Mid tower will go down as well. It's one hit. Doesn't even matter who hits it. It's gonna die. And that's even more global gold then for Meet Your Makers. So with these squishy builds here, Gambit suddenly won't really be in a position to team fight. And instead are gonna have to look for these picks, or maybe one-on-ones. Instead, Abyssal Scepter is now completed, though, from Betsy, so at least some of them are coming in.
Yeah, a lot of important item spikes. You see Kabashards had completed the Zanya's Hourglass, of course, also in the top lane. JWoww has the Righteous Glory, and I wanted to mention it before the fight broke out, but Rallis is looking pretty good now that he finished his Trinity Force. It was a few minutes ago. I feel like this is the Trinity Force spike, especially on a champion like Kog'Maw, is even more important than, like, you know, say completing the Infinity Edge, just because if you can sufficiently protect him, which so far hasn't really been an issue, it just gets really, really irritating for Gambit to just try and deal with running into a hail of, you know, everything, the Bioarcane Barrage, etc., etc.
Yeah, gives a lot of good stats for him for sure. Also makes him one of the hyper carries who can perform pretty well in the mid game. Not like a Caitlyn, who is good early, then terrible mid game, and then obviously strong again in the late. Horo, he's just back to farming. Giant Build picked up. Really trying to use the Cinder Hold, 25% bonus HP passive. Currently, it's giving him about 200 extra HP on this Olaf. They're going to have to need a Locket, though, on MYM's side against Diana and Kennen for extra protection. And obviously, we mentioned how Maokai on this patch is even better with the Righteous Glory buffs. It's already been picked up for JWoww. So a lot of tools here for Meet Your Makers to either kite the fight to try and engage in. Obviously, Victor is one of those champions when he's running Ghost and Flash who can follow and really add him. Oh. Diamond now, he's going for Corey.
Yeah, he runs right through the gravity field. Corey could be in some trouble. He's going to Flash and Ghost to bail out away. A couple of summoners blown. And that pink ward still lives.
If you want to go into the enemy jungle and clear a ward, have your friends near you so they can help you. Instead, though, Caboshot, JWoww, they're trading. Horo is in the push-up here. Not spotted by Caboshot. He does have Flash ready, however.
Uh-oh.
See if he has to use it.
He's got to see notifications are tingling. No! The axe lands right in his face, and he's going to have to Lightning Rush and Flash, but Horo still thinking about chasing. He backs away after the Ragnarok was blown. Still, a summoner utilized in all of that. MYM really on the aggressive so far.
I like it. I like to see a team like MYM. Yes, okay, they're number 10 in the standings, but
they've not got a ton to lose, I suppose.
As we mentioned, with these new changes, it feels like they got a bit of a kick in the butt. And they're like, hey, we can make plays. We are good players here. We don't have to just sit back and wait 20 minutes and then we can say the game is over. No, we can honestly go in and we can challenge you. The 2 dragons, perfect setup. First one because there was a dive obviously in the top lane from Gambit. Second one because Gambit dove in with 2 fairly squishy champions at that point. Died. Second one to MYM. Mid tower is still really, really low. Nobody's really walked in there to kill it yet. Corey won't be able to either now with double summoners being blown.
It's an investment to Fischio. They're gonna knock it over whenever and then realize the return.
I really think Corey's he's regretting going for that pink ward in the jungle of Gambit when he had no friends nearby, had to blow both the summoners, meaning he has to be a bit more careful. Now Betsy, once again going towards the top lane, the pink ward will spot him.
Gonna realize that one. You can see JWoww's already backed sufficiently away. Corey
should just take the mid lane here.
Yeah, he's actually moving up top, but he's pretty low on mana here, too. And he's got the blue buff, so it won't be a problem in a minute. But Cabochard's set to take the turret down. He does. I'm not really sure why everyone started moving up that way. Looks like they wanted to fight, but yeah, Diamond's just able to bail out. So no problem.
Just take that free mid tower, trade it. Your top tower was going to die anyway. So I'm not really sure. Corey obviously trying to be the hero here and save his top laner, but not really needed in this case. Diamond, he's been controlling the river pretty well on the top side. Getting a lot of extra gold for that one. Still going towards the Trinity Force for himself. Which is the standard top lane Hecarim style, but you get a lot more gold in the top lane. Obviously the jungle has been buffed a little bit in terms of your income.
Yeah, but I mean, this is still, by any measure, a fairly late Trinity Force.
Oh yeah, it's a very late Trinity Force. I mean, normally you want to get that around 15, 16, maybe we can say around 18 minutes the latest. That's where you normally sit on a Trinity Force. And that's a good timing. For him, it's going to be about 25 minutes, unless he can buy it right now. He can, he sits on about 1,000 gold, so he should be able to pick that one up.
Yeah, and you know, to his credit, he has been able to get a little bit more gold than his counterpart, but I feel like MYM have made much more use of their jungler so far. Horo's just really been involved in a lot of the power plays on this map. When you see Betsy or Diamond diving in, I mean, he's actually hardly getting touched. So his tankiness is already starting to assert itself. And of course, you know, with the Cinderhulk, he's going to want to be running in as much as possible and utilizing that passive to just deal a lot of passive damage while his team, you know, is able to peel away. Oh, Diamond, careful! There was a bubble. There was a lot of MYM members here, and they will finally be able to take down that pink ward. Gambit a little slow to react. Another 45 seconds till this next dragon, but Meet Your Maker's already securing their vision. Scuttle Crab Shrine is down.
It's the same play though from MYM. As soon as they start setting up for a dragon, they want to have the one ward just behind the red buff in a small banana bush, I guess we can call it, near the entrance to the river from Gambit's side. This time around, Corey didn't walk in on his own, and therefore no summoners was blown. Gambit, on the other hand, are trying to set up some vision on the top side, so they allow Meet Your Makers to take over the dragon, and then have Cabochard push to top lane with teleport, and if MYM takes too long on starting that dragon and start baiting around it, then Cabochard might be able to get a tower, at least some damage on it. So they're basically swapping around the map and saying, okay, you get vision on the bottom side, we make sure we go into your jungle and get it on the top side. Hor, though, he's trading on Betsy.
Yes, he is. See if he can keep him slowed down there. Betsy's going to be dashing in. Oh, there is going to be a big combo as JWoww comes up with a pick, a teleport in for Cabochard, but is it going to be a little bit too late for a Gambit knockback? Horo all low, so is Corey, but he's the one back down to this one. Zanya's Hourglass won't be enough to keep Cabochard alive, and it is a clean 3-for-none for Meet Your Makers.
Yeah, again, it's a bit of the same deal. Might not be over yet. Pinoy popped his ulti. Not really going to find any targets here, but it's somewhat the same deal. Again, normally Diana at this point would sit on an Hourglass and an Abyssal Scepter, so Betsy would be able to dive in, pull them all together, pop his Hourglass, stay alive when Diamond then follows up, and you have a fantastic wombo combo. Instead, Betsy went in. He got basically killed instantly. Diamond tried to join after. He got dropped, and then suddenly Cabochard just found himself all alone. Corey will be stopped and...
Oh!
Stays alive. The Q shield.
Okay. Right as the dragon buff goes on him, too. And, you know, I was going to say this before... Okay, we'll talk about that afterwards, because here's the fight again.
So Horo knows he's insanely tanky. He can start this fight on his own. And notice Betsy now. He dives in. This is a good setup. He pulls in 4 targets. This is where he normally would pop Hourglass. And then you allow the rest of your team to join, because by the time Cabochard then comes in here, Betsy's still alive, and you might be able to win the fight. But now, these 2 targets get dropped instantly. We see how with the Ghost, Corey can kite around. We talked about that Q he got earlier, the upgraded one from the Hex Core, give him even more mobility. And simply because their coordination isn't there from Gambit right now to really set up these fights, MYM gets to really kite it around and win them.
Yeah, you can see those timing errors are just manifesting themselves so obviously there. It's a matter of seconds before the rest of the team comes in. Cabochard, if he really wanted to make that teleport play, needed to be there at least 3 seconds before.
Yeah.
Diamond, you know, he pops his ult in, yes, but they didn't have any follow-up damage. You can't take a fight like that without your AD carry, and honestly, without really the serious amount of damage. So, yes, they've kind of hit some decent item spikes, but they're not utilizing them together the right way. They're just not playing with the coordination that I feel like Gambit really, really needs if they want to seriously contest in the playoffs and make a run at this. Right now, they're really not playing like they deserve it.
It's not over yet, though, from Gambit here. Obviously, this bot lane tower will go down. Wallace I've been the guy to join the fights, but he's just been sitting and farming on his own, 255
which is fine for a Kog'Maw.
Which is basically what he needs to do. Of course, and MYM has an absolutely insane late game. build up here. You got the Maokai, one of the best late game tanks. Olaf, of course, will become an absolute monster. And then Rallis and Corey as well. Those two together, if you don't kill them instantly, they will melt your entire team. So, Meteor Makers off to a great start, keeping it even in gold, got 3 dragons, so no risk of Gambit suddenly rushing towards the 5th dragon and force you into a bad fight. No, that might be MYM who can do that to Gambit themselves. Such a good start for them. And this mid tower is still alive. It is sitting on, let's see, it is sitting on 9 HP.
Still sitting there. And the counterpart tower is starting to get a little bit low, but Meteor Maker is able to push that one back. A lot of members of Gambit up on this top side trying to push in the edge that they do have. Tower's going pretty low. There's a bubble. It's going to be spell shielded out by Pinoy, but JWoww coming on Twisted Advance onto Cabo Shard, who's taking a lot of damage, and they've given him up for broke. Meanwhile, Corey, Horo, can they take him out of the shutdown? That is going to go over to Betsy, but Horo has there. The cavalry has arrived. Pinoy is being chased back, but can he kite it out? There goes the Boomerang Blade. Noxiac and Rallis are still there for the chase. It's so far a 1-for-1, but MYM have defended their tower, and they push Gambit out of their jungle.
Gambit has pretty much the entire game long invested a lot of wards into the jungle of Meteor Makers on the top side of the map. This time it at least gave them 1 kill. There we go, Rallis.
There's the tower.
Take down that tower. There's 1 hit.
Some much deserved gold now.
We keep seeing Gambit go towards the top lane because they always like to play around Copper Shard, so they make sure they ward for him so he can push his lane and play really aggressive. And that's why they could catch Corey in the jungle here. You can see how he was basically dead around the red buff.
But there was so much vision there that they checked into that it was... well, for Gambit, they were able to keep that one on their side. I feel like MYM still knew exactly what Gambit were up to in that situation. They were able to react. They were able to make a 1-for-1, and they saved their tower. Yes, you got shutdown gold onto Betsy, which is massive for Gambit. But he was already at 4-1, and it's kind of scary when a Victor and this whole team comp starts to get rolling.
Yep.
Stopping them is going to be a tough task.
It will be very difficult. This Blade of the Ruin King for Rallis as well. When you pop that on a Hecarim, if he's already using his E, you steal a lot of movement speed from him to simply kite around. So only Noxiac there to really protect him in the backline at least. And now Diamond is looking for them. Noxiac, he will get him.
Knocks him back. There is the gravity field. He moves out of it. So Dragon's still a ways away. They're going to do some vision clearing and then look to push on the bottom side. They did never take out that bottom first tier turret. It is 2-1 in towers. It actually hasn't been too many taken out this game, despite the action across the map. Meteor Maker's still trying to play around the dragon, but the Skull Crab Shrine is in Gambit's favor, so they'll be chased away, as the bottom tower is surely going to fall here.
You can see again Gambit, they change around depending on which lane they want to push. Really try and do a good job at least of allowing your side lanes to get a tower. Cabochard got the first one in the top lane. Now they need to be careful because MYM is pushing in. Diamond, he's moving in from behind. JWoww is not here yet. Let's see if Diamond can start the fight. Pinoy though, he's far away, so I guess they just have to force them away.
Yeah.
This should be in top tower now for Meteor Makers because the wave is being pushed in. Unless they don't want to try and risk giving up a dragon.
Or giving up.
Well, you already have JWoww sitting in the mid lane and you have a massive wave coming top side.
Yeah, I kind of think
could have gone top there.
They would have had enough time to get back too, and they had a teleport advantage. Or rather, they had the teleport with JWoww. Now Horo, he's still looking to try and find this fight. I feel like Meteor Makers are having a little bit of hesitation here. And even though they got 3 dragons, you know, it's not the end of the world to give one up if you're going to get something for it.
Yes and no. You don't want to give the first dragon because it's the 6% AP and AD, obviously, to Gambit. And you want to have that 5th dragon as a way of you really snowballing the game. So honestly, what I think they did is they said, we know the minions will do enough work, or at least force someone from Gambit to come and defend. So we're going to let those minions do their job, and we don't want to give up...
Oh, it was so low.
Yeah, there we go.
It's going to take it anyway.
And we don't want to give up dragon control. So honestly, it was the right call from them. Looking there saying, okay, we don't have to, let's go down to dragon instead. They set up the same few wards as always. Cabochard does have teleport ready. And all the ultis are here for both teams. Yeah. Dragon has been started. Diamond is recalling though. So Gambit is going to give it up again. 4 dragons to 0 now.
Yeah, that is really curious. They had an opportunity to make a play, and this time they're even a little more hesitant to even fully push in. You can see they had sent Corey and Noxiac back to defend the tower, so Gambit, they get nothing out of that. Now they're pinging their top tower to defend it. 4 dragons to 0 at 31 minutes into the game. I mean, this is troubling for Gambit. They usually give up some dragons, but not this many.
This was just such a good call by MYM. Allowing the minions to do the work while they secured their 4th dragon. And they might even get back in time. There's nothing Gambit could do to push, because all the lanes have been pushed down towards them, so there's no opening to try and trade for a tower. So really good shot calling here. I think that's been a problem for Meteor Makers all split long, has been the decision making, the shot calling. Looks a lot better in this game here at least for them, and now we can see how Corey has fully upgraded his Hex core. Currently giving him 156 AP and obviously get his W and his ulti to travel a bit faster.
Yeah, despite the individual, or on top of the individual performance being, you know, pretty good, which I feel like MYM have generally had, I really like the way that they're playing together and around each other as a team and grouping up, especially for these fights. Look at Noxiac, for example. He's got 100% kill participation on this Nami. He has been moving around despite the fact that Rallis has been relatively safe. It's not been because he's been leaving him out to pasture. He's been moving quite a lot back and forth to try and defend every front that they possibly can. And as a result, MYM, I mean, this is why they're up this game.
Because they've been allowed to.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
Gambit haven't really...
No, I agree 100% on your point, but
properly, I'll give you that. But I do think they're playing a lot better together than we have seen historically from them as the fight
for sure.
get underway. Betsy will flash, but meanwhile, Cabochard, Edward, the rest of Gambit in the middle, trying to chase down Rallis behind the tower. They'll finally get him, but that looks like it could be an expensive play. Edward, he's surely going to go down here. It's a double kill going to Rallis at the end with the Acathian surprise. It is a 3-for-1 trade for Meteor Makers, and man, that was all over the map.
It was, and again, Meteor Makers, they have the map control, so they're the ones starting the fight. You saw how Hori, he went on Betsy, forced him to flash away, so he was completely gone. That removes a lot of the dive potential Gambit does have. Yes, okay, they managed to kill Mr. Rallis, but it took them such a long time that the rest of MYM could just clean up a few kills. Started this Baron here, they should be able to pick it up. Cabochard and Betsy not really able to do anything.
I love how Corey has just been constantly zoning, not just with this gravity field, with the death ray. Noxiac helping out as well. No chance for Gambit to get in here and try to contest this. They didn't have the smite anyways, but let's see how that fight unfolded. That was nuts.
So again, Meteor Makers, they have control of the map, so they're starting to fight first. Mr. Rallis does get caught out a little bit, but now he's just kiting back to his tower. And you can see how everyone from Gambit is trying to kill him. Even Eddie, the support, is running in there to get the killing blow, but that means once the rest of MYM returns, you have nothing left you can do. You have invested everything onto killing one guy. And that's why MYM could win the fight, get the Baron, and they're back and they want to fight again.
Yes, they do. The bubble's not going to land, but Edward and Diamond are a little bit low. All the same, Living Artillery, the wave is going to go up. It turns on Eddie. Horo's going to get the kill, and they pick up Diamond anyways. Meteor Makers just rolling through the jungle, and they should be able to secure another tower here. Baron buff minions as well.
Be inhibitor for them. And remember, they still got that 5th dragon coming up, so...
Yeah, I mean, that's just icing on the cake at this point. Gambit, they're being shoved in so hard. 34.5 minutes into this game, and you can just see how well they've been able to scale up. Inhibitor, easy peasy, and they continue to control the map.
What a change it's been for Meteor Makers picking up Noxiac here. I'm not sure what these European supports do to you. Kasing joins H2K, they win like 8 games in a row. Noxiac joins MYM, and suddenly they look a lot more decisive. He was the guy making the play in the bottom lane to get the first kill on Eddie as well. So really big change for Meteor Makers, looking a lot better than they've done all split, and they are not out of the LCS yet. This win would tie them with Giants, as long as Giants lose later today, where they play SK Gaming.
Right, they're not as far back as they may have been.
No, suddenly you're fighting here to avoid the auto relegation. If you are number 9 or number 8, you have to play relegation against some of the challenger teams, which of course we're gonna see later on after playoffs here in EU.
Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, but for the moment, Meteor Makers, yeah, they have a real chance to keep going on this one, and they're really playing like they want it. I mean, again, it goes back to having these changes eventually starting to work out for them, especially finding what it seems like the final puzzle piece in Noxiac. Don't know exactly how much impact he's had on the team's mindset, but it certainly seems to have been a massive positive upswing over the course of these weeks now.
Sometimes getting a new player just gives you some new motivation. He may be coming in with, you know, some different views on how to play the game, some different calls.
Well, and individual play too. The playmaking has been there that it just wasn't previously.
Sometimes just when you make a change and you start winning a few scrims, you get a lot more confidence and suddenly you start believing in what you're doing, despite being number 10 in the LCS. And that can be all you need. Pick up a few wins, end your losing streak, and then we see Meteor Makers now should be able to take down Gambit with this lead. Dragon 40 seconds. Diamond though, he's looking to fight.
Leading the charge in, it's Diamond, but do they have the damage to take him out? The Wild Growth to keep him alive, but not for long. Betsy, meanwhile, trying to deal it with Horo and Noxtake on the back. Cabo Shard in tow, a double kill coming in for Rallis. It looks like they're about to get more. Betsy, isolated, gets a shutdown on Corey, but it's not going to be nearly enough. A 4 for 1. Meet Your Makers. Dead timer's at 50 seconds now to Fischio. They look like they might want to end.
They're pushing in. They got a few minutes here. No super minions yet, but they're coming down from the mid lane. Meet Your Makers, they're looking fantastic today.
They've been tanking turrets up too. Horo, are they going to do it again here? It's actually JWoww that tanks it up. Cabo Shard, they're trying to push him back. Nexus turret starting to go down, but it might be a little bit too hefty for them to take just yet.
Play it safe.
So go back for now. You've still got 2 inhibitors on Gambit. And guess what? Dragon number 5 is looking pretty live right now.
Yeah, go back to that Dragon here. So you secure it. You got teleport ready for JWoww. You can see how Gambit now is rushing out from the base. They want to try and stop this one. It's been started by Meet Your Makers now. Diamond should be able to get there in time. But JWoww is teleporting back in. Corey's not there. Same can be said for Betsy.
It was a bit greedy to go for clearing out the jungle so far, but they are zoning Diamond away. Look at that. The bubble is on as well. Vengeful Maelstrom for JWoww after he teleported in, trying to keep them from getting in there. They do secure Dragon 5. Now this gets really rough for Gambit. Look at their health bars just evaporating. Diamond can't even get out. Rallis picks up his 5th kill of the game. Pinoy spell shields away the Twisted Advance, but JWoww still closed the gap. Pinoy now trying to run away from everything. A double kill. Meanwhile, comes in as Rallis picks up Edward, and they just keep on chasing. Now they've got them super minions starting to pile in, and with Dragon buff number 5, they've got all the tools to close this game out to Fischio.
They do, just need the minions. They're coming right there, super minions.
Up to the end.
Yeah, they're trying. They really want to end this game for Meet Your Makers here. They're staying. They have so much damage on these towers, but still 3 guys from Gambit trying to defend.
Yep, they are indeed. Cabo Shard, Pinoy, and Betsy do it though. Nexus Tower number 1, it's going down. The minions have been mostly cleared away. MYM still going to play this one a little bit safe for now. They're going to back off for the time being.
Really, we looked at the 2 comps in pick and ban phase, and it looked so risky for Meet Your Makers. Like, oh, they have not enough to protect the 2 carries. Corey and, okay, let's talk about it after instead here. Replay coming in. Corey's going to be the target. There's a nice ulti from Diamond. The problem is Corey already has an hourglass complete, so he can just pop it after.
He even chunked.
Oh, but this is a Victor late game. You one-shot people. If there's no tank to keep him busy, which is not on the side of Gambit, he will one-shot someone. And also, of course, pop the hourglass. MYM is so far ahead at this point, they can just clean it up. But again, if you look at the 2 comps, had Gambit not fallen so far behind, they would have been able to dive onto MYM like this and try and pop their carries, but they simply took some wrong fights, and look at Corey.
They keep on talk about that Victor late game. Man, that is some serious damage. But Gambit, they keep on trying, but it's just getting so difficult not to run straight into a face full of laser.
Ulti will be ready for Corey fairly soon. Diamond though, he's looking for more. Stunned it. Come down for Corey, trying to block it. No teleport for Cabo Shard. MYM might just wait for the next Baron before they really start closing it, seeing as the mid inhibitors just respawned. But you still have that 5th Dragon, so you should go down and try and force a fight.
They get a bit of a breather in the mid, but not for long as MYM are starting to push this one, and they can just easily come in and take it as fast as they want. How can Gambit defend this? They've got to worry about their minions being pushed back in the bottom as well. Diamond's sent there to deal with it, but easy inhib take. They're moving up to Baron. They own this map.
Look at this here from Horo. Righteous Glory as well. After the buffs, 650 HP, perfect for an Olaf. Giving even more movement speed for the team when they are diving onto Gambit, because they got so far ahead. They've been able to control every objective. Every time a dragon spawned, it was MYM being there first, placing a few wards around it and say, okay, Gambit, if you want to fight, it's going to be on our terms. We can see you the entire time and we can engage on you with our Olaf, with our Maokai. That's going to be our way of peeling for our 2 mobile carries. And Gambit ran right into it. But caught out, ended up dying for it. We talked about their fairly risky builds. The Trinity Force on a jungle Hecarim, that's such an expensive item. You would be very squishy. And of course, Morel Nomicon first for Betsy as well. So he didn't have that hourglass for the first few important fights. Full credit to MYM, they played this so well. Corey, sorry, there's the mix again of Koro. Koro and Corey together.
It's a good combo so
Corey and Mr. Rallis have been the 2 carries, like they should do, or should be. They were the 2 carries last year as well for this team. When they had Impaler, when they had Kasing. They're really stepping up here in the end of this split.
Yeah, and just in the nick of time too, if they want to keep their playoff dreams still alive in this one. They are looking very good in that regard. A massive lead for them in every department. However, they were trying to make something happen on the side. A Gambit Diamond just gets melted. Man, Corey is big. Here they go on the tower. The chase is on. Betsy, they can't even get back to Fountain just yet. He's going to dash back in, try to dive the back line. It's Rollins who is his target. However, he's still staying alive for the moment, and Betsy with the Zanyas is not going to keep him up for much longer. 3 members of Gambit down. A tower on the inhibitor now. They're going to be able to push this one in. So many minions here. Gambit Gaming, they're going to be out of this one. Teleport doesn't even really matter. Nexus goes down, and Meet Your Makers could still make the playoffs.
Yeah, on paper, this looked like a game Gambit should win. It looked like a perfect way for Gambit to come back from IEM, you know, pick up a win, get some confidence. But then Meet Your Makers really shows they're not done yet.
They had other plans here.
Oh, yes. Just fantastic individual play all around for Meet Your Makers. And again, the shot calling. We've never seen Meet Your Makers with this great shot calling.
Yeah.
Like the way they handle the side lanes here, the way they set up for Dragon every time, and the way they played around the 2 carries. That was such a good setup.
Oh yeah, no, they did exactly what they needed to. And you can see on the faces of Gambit Gaming here, just stun reactions. They maybe expected to come back and kind of get a little bit of the groove going again, but it just didn't happen. You got to wonder now how much they were shaken up post-IEM.
Well, we got to wonder, you know, what's gone wrong for Gambit. Is it, you know, is it the strategy that doesn't work for them anymore? Is it the new patch 5.5 here? They had, of course, less time than some of the other teams to practice because they went to IEM and played on 5.4. It's only had a few days. You see Yamato Cannon here, the coach for Meet Your Makers, looking very happy and looking stylish as always.
Oh, he definitely looks always stylish, but he doesn't always look at ease. This time he was before the game, obviously after the game. I mean, he definitely knew something was going right with his team, and that was the result there. I mean, it turned so one-sided at the end. Just every advantage to Meet Your Makers. Gambit kept trying to play the fights. And, you know, we said in the Champ Select, it was a little bit really, really aggressive picks and the way they wanted to chase down kills. I feel like they just did not execute that the way they needed to, and that's where the risk comes in when you allow Kog'Maw to become gigantic, for example, and you allow a late game Olaf, a late game Maokai to just start spiraling out of control, basically, and then you can't really do anything to stop them.
In the mid game where Gambit was supposed to win the fights, that's where they didn't have the right items, and they took, again, a few fights where one guy would go in first, the rest would kind of walk away, and then they would engage kind of half-hearted. And that's again why Meet Your Makers was just simply on the same page in this game here and managed to punish Gambit for it every time. We saw Gambit, they keep putting focus on Kappa Shot. I think that's smart because you can see how it pays off for them. He always gets a tower, he always gets super fed. The problem is the rest of the team needs to be able to follow him in that case, and you cannot be caught out suddenly.
Yeah, and they were out of sync.
It was.
Constantly. It was either the Kennen going in too quickly or the Hecarim going in too quickly. And then people just coming into... I feel like where it really started to unravel was that team fight, just upwards of the middle brush. And
the late TP.
Yeah, exactly. The late TP. Yeah. Diamond came in a little bit after there was the initial engage, and it just kind of seemed like one hero melting, another hero melting, a third one, and it just kind of turned really sour for them after the fact. Also, never really even contesting the Dragons wholeheartedly. They kind of backed off when they had a chance.
Simply because MYM was already there. They'd already set up walls around it, and you can never go face check. I mean,
well, they weren't proactive enough to really do it. It was so strange. Like
it was.
They played the laning phase decently well, and after that, they just seemed lost.
Still have to say for Gambit, they are sitting firmly, at least in the top half of the standings still. MYM, Unicorns of Love and Copenhagen Wolves are now getting closer to them. They're going to obviously play later today. Gambit needs to win 2 games to secure a spot in the playoffs.
Indeed.
So losing this one is not the end of the world for them, and it's obviously still the goal to get this top 6.
Not only that, assuming, I believe, Rocket and Elements both lose, they are secure in their spot in the LCS. So for the time being, they're not looking that bad, but they do need a little bit of help so far. For Meet Your Makers, of course, you know, it's still possible technically for them to make the playoffs, but they're going to have a tough...
to win a lot of games.
They have a very tough road ahead of them, but, you know, still 3 games left for them. I mean, that was a really impressive performance. It wasn't just Gambit making mistakes. They played together like the way that they've really needed to all season.
Yeah, again, we just saw so many new things for Meet Your Makers here. We didn't really think they could pull it off. Again, good decision-making. They played as a team. They really team fighted so well, which is, I think, there's been a problem because there's been basically new guys kind of coming in and out. There's been so many problems. MYM got benched at first, but JWoww has stepped up. And of course, Noxiac in the support role has done really well. And it kind of lifted the spirit, it seems like, for everyone. And suddenly Mr. Rallis is back to being one of the carries. A thing we didn't see him do for all split and some of last year as well, once he got all these support changes. Because remember, this is a guy who's now swapped support 5 or 6 times in his
like
entire LCS career, a little over a year. So it's a lot of changes for him. And Corey, of course, on this Victor, really showing why he's still so respected by EU mid laners. They still say he has fantastic mechanics.
Oh, yeah. He showed him off
It's
here.
just not worked for him with his team.
Yeah. This time around, though, it definitely did. Now, that's enough for us, at least. We're going to go ahead and head over to Shox and Cyanide for a closer look at Meet Your Makers win.
Thank you very much, Pyra. We're here with Meet Your Makers coach Yamato Cannon and their newest addition, the support Noxiac. Congratulations, guys. Still in the race. And Noxiac, well, I want to talk to you up front because you said in the beginning video, I am going to save MYM. You guys are now 1 win behind preseason favorites Elements and Roccat. Can you explain to me, what do you see as saving MYM?
Like, first of all, when I joined MYM, I think they were in a pretty bad position, and I just wanted to make sure they are not auto-relegated. But slowly, I think we can maybe even deny the relegations. I think we can have a shot.
Yeah, well, absolutely great game here for you. What was your reaction when you saw that Leona coming out as the very first ban from Gambit, and did you expect it?
That was pretty funny, but I'm usually not a really Leona player. Like, I used to play in solo queue different champs, not Leona. So I was pretty surprised. Since my first performance was okay, I guess, they focused me.
Yeah, pretty good, I would say. Yamato, how much of your team comp was inspired by 5.5?
I think the only portion that was really inspired by was just the Olaf pick. I think he really shines with the Cinderhawk item, and other than that, I just think Kog'Maw in general is really, really strong when Leona is banned, and we know that Gambit's not going to pick Annie.
Yeah, and it was a mean Nami coming out of Noxiac as well.
So you were not afraid to pick Kog'Maw into this type comp? Like, of course, when you picked Kog'Maw, it wasn't really certain what kind of a comp the enemies were going for, but you were not afraid anyway in case they would pick like this kind of Kennen, Diana, and Hecarim, even though it did go well for you. But
like, I would say that comp-wise, I felt in a team fight straight on they should win, but I think our lanes were stronger primarily, and that would just set up for the Drakes, and I think the Drakes was what got us the game in the end.
Yeah, and you guys also were ahead earlier in the game than you should be, I should say, with your comp, because there were some really strange build paths coming out, especially on the side from Diamond. Cyanide, what did you make of the Hecarim into Stalkers, then not going for the Cinderhulk enchantment, going for Triforce first, and it was just really odd.
yeah, I have no idea what Diamond was thinking. Like, I thought at first that he was going for some genius tactic, like, okay, he's gonna go Triforce, and then he's gonna get the Cinderhulk a bit later when he already gets like the benefit of the bonus HP. But then he went like Triforce into Warrior. It was really weird, and you could see it in his score. And on the other hand, Horo was just building brilliantly. He went for full HP when he was facing full mixed damage team. It's like, normally when you are a tank and you are facing an AP 80 damage team, you are like, what can I build, because I will get destroyed. But he just stacked AP HP and it went perfectly.
Yeah, it did went perfectly. We're going to pull up a replay of Olaf totally man-moding and going into the enemy team, and actually showing how Gambit was uncoordinated, Laurie.
Yeah, here Horo knows that he can just go in really ham because he's just so tanky, and here Gambit just digs their own grave. Kennen's TP is way too late. Like, anything could have happened this fight if the TP was 5 to 10 seconds earlier, but the coordination just wasn't there, and now Cover Shard suicides 1v4, so they kind of dug their own grave.
Yeah, it really was resemblant of what Gambit was doing at IEM, just being uncoordinated in the team fights as well, but not taking anything away from you guys, still in the race. Fantastic. Did you guys at any point in the game tab rather and see how he was building Diamond and know that you guys would hit your power spikes earlier and communicate that?
Yeah, we just thought it's pretty weird to go Trinity first, since he's the only really engaged in front line of them. He can engage as well, but he's not really tanky. He has Sonias, but he will die after. So I think it would be better if he went more tanky and more reliable engage like that.
Well, good on you guys. You guys close it out here. Now, tomorrow you guys are up against H2K, another team that had a wonderful substitution and is in the support lane and has since then been on an absolute tear. Noxiac, how are you looking forward to that matchup?
I think I really like Kazing as a player. I played a lot of solo queue against him. I think he's really good mechanically, and I'm lucky to face him next.
It's going to be a good matchup. Imado, what does this tell you? Is this the MYM you knew that they had in them?
Like personally, I don't look at the past. I don't even look into the future. I take every step by step, and this is a big step closer to what we want to achieve in the end of the split.
Definitely is. Congratulations, guys. Very nice. Now, coming up next, Roccat will face Fnatic as they look to pull ahead of Elements in the fight to lock in a spot in the summer split. But before we go, let's look at a real Cinderella story, a familiar face's journey from Pulsa to professional shoutcaster.
It's so close to Vishio! Vishio gets it! Double kill for Lulu!
For me, especially in esports, when I see an opening or a chance, I really want to jump on it just to give it a try and do my best to be as good as I possibly can.
We sort of had an eye on him when he was a competitor with the Copenhagen Wolves. He just really understood the game super well, was very articulate, and he was on our short list of people who we wanted to consider for casters.
This is a guy that has more understanding of all of the avenues in competitive League of Legends. And it's just amazing to watch him draw from that experience to give our viewers a deeper understanding and a richer viewing experience.
Riot contacted me and asked if I wanted to go to Worlds and try and help them out with like pick and ban stuff. And I, of course, said yes, fantastic. I get to go to LA, I get to watch Worlds. It ended up being me basically doing pick and bans with Jet, D-Man and Riff at the World Final itself.
It definitely seemed like a mistake their lane swapped back to the 2v2s and 1v1s early because they clearly had the weaker 2v2 and 1v1 lane in both top and bot lane.
The way he was able to explain his viewpoint and discuss pick and ban strategy, discuss team strengths was so impressive.
I will actually expect to see Renekton banned, especially in the first game.
I was very nervous. And just sitting there in my NIP shirt, nothing else, next to these guys in full suit in the Staples Center.
So what a lot of pro players do when they come in to analyze picks and bans is they'll focus pretty heavily on the champion and exactly what that champion will do. But Deficio was able to go one step farther where he was able to consider the player and how they play that champion, which meshed really well with my current style for pick and bans at the time, and we worked really well together in that way.
I talked to Riot a bit more and they suggested that I could try and apply for this shoutcaster job because they were looking for another shoutcaster in Europe.
A color caster is the one who sort of drops the knowledge bombs. Their key attributes would be a great understanding of the game, the ability to explain complicated concepts in sort of 15 seconds.
You get 7 spears under 10 seconds, but you do 2,200 because everything does more.
It's just insane. It's just a lot of little things that were very impressive for me. And then if you take it the bigger scale of the LCS games, he just sees away in a totally different game than all of us do. And it's just a pleasure to sit with him and watch a game. It levels all of us up as well.
They can rotate around the map extremely fast and you have really no chance of punishing them because they're always picking these champions to do so well. When you become a shoutcaster, you gotta know something about everything, about every role, about every team, about every strategy. You gotta have something you can talk about. And that's why it requires a lot more researching and collecting data.
Deficio's not stopped researching, learning, studying, and I think he's the hardest working caster of the team.
I've always had this try-hard mentality, so when it comes to improving, I really just go hardcore and like fully focus on it. And I don't really mind negative feedback. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try and improve on all these things. And now my goal is to turn them around.
Deficio has grown in a lot of ways. He has worked so hard to make his English better and better. But on top of that, the way he delivers his analysis, his ability to focus on story more, his ability to just control his cadence while he's speaking.
There's a lot of things I need to work on in terms of casting, but it's still motivation for me that I can get better and better and better, and it makes me happy because it means I can wake up every day and say, okay, I'm gonna work on lane swaps today, I'm gonna be way better at explaining a lane swap to the audience. And that's just cool because it means it's a lot more fun.